Welcome to the Spunky Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, psychic medium Carrie Muggs. This is where we learn all things spirit, everything from spiritual gifts, awakenings, ghosts, aliens, and starseeds. Nothing is untouchable, but always fun and spunky. I am honored to be on this spiritual journey with you, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Spunky Spirit. I am Carrie Muggs, and today we're going to kind of go with the theme of Carrie Connects and how to just go for it, because so a lot of this podcast will probably be about fear a little bit, because a lot of times what stops us is our fear. And a fear of what? A fear of, we have to figure that out. Like, why don't we just go for it? What are we afraid of? Why don't we just take that step forward? Or why don't we just go ahead and start that business, or start, or build boundaries around family members, or tell people no, or, little tiny things, or quit our jobs. There's, lots of fear behind all of that stuff. Also fear on growing spiritually and connecting to spirit. And there's just so many fears. So no matter what it is that you're trying to go for or that you want to succeed, there's all great manifesting tools out there. But bottom line is if you are afraid of it and there's even some deep-seated fear about it, it's not going to happen, because that deep-seated fear is going to stop it. And, manifesting is great, but you have to work for it. And you're not going to work for it if you are afraid. If you're afraid, if fear keeps holding you back. So these are going to be this is going to be like how to, face that fear, I guess, or how to just go for it. Because again, I think I have told you before, there's only two fears we're born with, and that's the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And so it's just the rest of it is kind of ingrained into us. The rest of it was taught to us, or we experienced something and now have PTSD from it, or we, had a trauma when we were smaller, or somebody taught us that something's not good, and so we have this fear. So if there's been something in your life that you just want to try or you just want to do, why not just freaking go for it? Why not? Why not? And so, when is it going to be time? When are you going to be ready? When are you going to, when are you going to do it? When are you going to take that step? And so what are you waiting for? Really? I was at a spin class this week, and the instructor always plays a song at the end to try and make you think about your life. And the song this week was "What Are You Waiting For?" And I thought that went perfect with Carrie Connects. So what are you waiting for? And so the first thing is you got to define clearly, what is it that you want? What is it that you want? So I'll probably be using my experience about stepping out as a psychic medium, coming out of that spiritual closet, just because that was one of the most fearful things I've ever done. And the other one was probably leaving my first marriage. That was pretty fearful, and that was kind of based around religion too. So what is the number one fear is what your friends and family are going to think of you, or what your, religious group is going to think of you. So first of all, you got to figure out what it is you want, what it is that you want to do. So let's say you do want to become a spiritual healer, or you do want to become spiritually more connected. Well, what's stopping you? You gotta figure out what the heck is stopping you. So you gotta identify what it is that is holding you back. So my thing was, I was afraid of not only what my friends would think in my religion. Our religion at the time was pretty tight-knit, a lot of judgment. And you wouldn't think it would be, and they're not supposed to be, and some of them aren't, and some of them are, because every religion has good, and everything has good and bad, right? So you're going to feel, and every religion has some cliques, and so my biggest thing was, what were they going to think? And family too, because I had raised my family in this religion, and my kids. What I raised him in this religion. What was I going to teach him? Because I had tried. I had tried to make this spiritual psychicness and mediumship work with the religion. I had tried to tie the two together. It just didn't work for me. It wasn't. I even tried to do okay, I just won't be 100%. It just didn't work for me. So it just was too contradicting and it was too chaotic. So inside of me, and I just didn't want to deal with the chaos. So I was afraid to come out of, so I would do readings behind the scene, or I would do readings behind in through closed doors. No one would see what was going on, but most of my clientele was from North Carolina, and it was over the phone, so I didn't have to worry about it in my little small community that I kind of was in. But I did have to worry about it with like family, like especially not my mom per se or my brother, but my husband's family was pretty, his parents are still, I think they still kind of, think less of it. And I have to remember, I have their last name. So that's why I don't really go by my full last name. I go by Muggs. And I didn't want to embarrass my kids because we do live in a small community and the religion has played a big part. And I didn't want to embarrass my kids. So I had all these things about embarrassing people and the fact that just being a medium itself is scary. Just putting yourself out there and not just the people in the religion judging you, but everybody judging you. I know a local medium here that had a news article written about her. Awesome, awesome medium. And gosh, some of the comments about just about being a medium in general were horrible. And I just thought, what the heck? This lady's so extremely nice. She's so gifted. And what the heck? What the heck? So that was my biggest fear. And so the step is to figure out, it's kind of hard. It's a big move to say, this is what I'm nervous for. This is what I'm scared of. I'm scared of being wrong in the readings. I'm scared of, there's so many different fears there that you could be having. Like I'm afraid of what people are going to think. I'm afraid of leaving my friends and family. I'm afraid they're going to forego or leave me. And you know what? Honestly, I'll be honest. All of my fears were so much bigger in my head than they were in reality. It's so crazy to me. Like I had caused this like big, huge fear of everything in my head of how it was going to play out and how people were going to, and it was just so much worse in my head than what actually happened. It's such a crazy thing. It's that anxiety. So, you have to figure it out. Figure out what you're afraid of. What exactly are you afraid of? Because honestly, once you get past that, spiritual awakenings and spiritual growth and all kinds of growth, not just spiritual, it's ongoing all the time. So once you clear up one block, there's always going to be another because you're going to be growing and you always grow spiritually, physically, all the things. So first step is you got to figure out what it is that's causing you to not go for it. What is it? Are you afraid of losing your spouse? Are you afraid of losing your marriage? Are you afraid of losing your kids? Are you afraid of, because at the end of the day, it's really causing you to not be truly who you are authentically. If they cannot love you for who you truly are authentically, then you have to ask yourself, you're sacrificing a big part of you for somebody else, and you got to decide if that sacrifice is worth it. So you got to figure out what is it that you're afraid of, and how are you going to overcome that. You got to understand how it's going to impact your life, and why it's impacting your life, and what are the specific fears. Are they this fear of what other people are going to think, that you're going to be alone, or because if you're afraid that you're going to lose your marriage or your family, you're afraid that you're going to be alone, right? Or are you afraid of actually doing readings and maybe not getting them 100% right all the time? Or you got to figure out what that stress is. Or are you afraid? Most spiritual stuff is what other people think. A lot of stuff, bottom line, is what other people think. Every single fear almost goes back to bottom line, what other people think. The only thing that doesn't is when you're in a room in the dark and you're scared. That's not a fear of what other people think. Or if you're afraid of certain animals or insects, that's not being, I think I did an episode on fear. That's not being afraid of what other people think, but you actually doing what you love and living a life that you love. Most of those fears go back to what other people think. So, and you got to figure out why they bother you. And you need to do this because you need to figure out, you got to understand it. You got to figure out what, because honestly, if a lot of your stuff is that you're afraid of what other people are going to think, you got to figure out why. This is shadow work, guys. This is your shadow work. So you got to figure out why do I care what other people think? Why do I care what this person thinks of me? And you need to go back and figure out why. You cannot continue to live your life for somebody else all the time. Now, that doesn't mean you go and quit your job tomorrow, you start the business tomorrow, but it does mean that you can just start doing something that goes towards that goal that you just got to do. Right? Like, what are you waiting for? Just start it. And you got to understand those fears, because once you understand those fears, like I've told this story many, many times, my grandmother, who was up at the chalkboard when she was in second grade, her belt was too loose and her pants fell down while she was doing a math problem. And she has had a fear of being in front of crowds forever. And she was even the Bonneville County treasurer for a really long time. And that's where that fear came from. And once she figured that out, it became so much easier for her. And it all really was boiled down to what other people are going to think of her, right? What other people are going to think? Am I going to embarrass myself again in front of all these people? So you got to figure out why you're afraid of it, understand it, and then you can begin to confront it and manage it, right? And even if you don't have your fear under control, or you don't have this scaredness under control, you can start to research what you want to do. If you want to start a new job and leave the current job you have, start looking for other jobs. Just look. Just because you're looking doesn't put you on anybody's, you don't have to take the job. You don't have to apply for it yet. Just start researching. If you want to get out of a relationship, just start researching how to do that. Do you need to make a bank account for you? Little tiny steps. But here's one thing I do. If you are in an abusive relationship and you're trying to leave, seek help, please, and find someone that can help you do this, because those fears are too hard to do on your own and to face on your own. And there's also a really, a mental aspect to this. So understand your fear response. So fear is your natural response, and it honestly helps you. It's your ego. It protects you. Your ego is just like, I want to stay here. I want to stay where we're comfortable. I want to stay where it's good. I don't want to move any boats. So your ego basically is trying to protect you. And we've talked about your ego before. It's not completely bad. It's just always trying to protect you. And fear also is trying to protect you. A lot of times the fear comes from the ego too. So danger and fear are very different, very, very different. Danger is when you are in imminent danger and you need to get out fast. That's different than fear. Fear is when you are creating something in your head, like I told you, that might not be entirely true. Just like I thought that if I was going to be a psychic medium, I was going to lose all my friends and family. My kids weren't going to talk to me anymore, and I was going to be excommunicated from, and now I don't care. Like, now I'm just like, this is me, guys. This is who I am. You either love me or you don't. This is how it is. So, and none of that ever happened. Most everybody was pretty accepting and loving, and I never got excommunicated. So it was fine. But when we do feel afraid, our heart can race. It can cause lots of anxiety. And I will admit, even sometimes today, depending on how the week goes, if I don't follow my routine, my morning routine the day before I do, so I have a morning routine that I do before I do my afternoon readings. If I don't follow that routine, I can go into the readings feeling pretty stressed out and anxious, just because I want to be prepared, right? So sometimes that anxiety or that fast heart response, it's that fear can become irrational, and that's what anxiety is. But once you can confront them, you confront your fears head on, and you figure it out and you overcome them, then you can help release some of that anxiety. So this is that whole taking small steps that I talked about. Gradually taking small steps a little bit at a time so that it's not so scary all at once. So you don't just like one day say, hey, everybody, I'm a medium. I'm going to do this. Or, hey, everybody, I'm out of this relationship. Or, hey, everybody, I'm quitting my job. You got to do little tiny baby steps at a time. And then that will help you facing your fears straight on. And little by little, it could be better. So when the card says go for it, or people say, what are you waiting for? It doesn't mean you have to do all of it tomorrow. You don't have to eat the whole elephant tomorrow. You can take little tiny steps. But taking tiny steps is what is the most important thing to do. Because once you start taking those little tiny steps, more confident you're going to become. The more at ease you're going to become, and the easier every little step's going to be. So once you confront those fears, the fear, oh my gosh, have you ever done something that you're so completely afraid of, but when you do it, you feel amazing? You feel it's so not overwhelming. You don't feel like it didn't end up the way you thought. It was so, I love that feeling. And every time you do that, it raises your confidence level 10% more. And so just do one little thing, even if it's just researching, like whatever business you want to start researching it, look at it. And, I could even use my daughter as an example of this. She just started a spinning business, cycle spin business, and it's amazing. But did she just do it all in one day? Nope. She started researching it. She started looking into what it's going to take to get certified. She started looking around at places where she could do this, like different places, and then she started looking at the money that it was going to take, and seeing if there were any bikes that but she didn't do it at once. She just she just kind of looked at it a little bit at a time, and then she just faced her fears and she went for it and she did it. And so that's what you got to do. You just got to do it. You got to figure out what the fear is, and you just got to take little baby steps towards that. So you got to challenge yourselves, and you got to challenge your beliefs and your fear about anxiety. So, a lot of people think that fear and anxiety are normal, and they're unavoidable, and they're parts of your life. This isn't always the case, you guys. I'm not saying that it's not normal, and I'm not saying that if you have anxiety, there's something wrong with you. But fear and anxiety can be managed, and you can overcome it with the right tools and the right strategies, and you got to find the right triggers and the right counselors and all of that stuff. And because if your fear is so strong that it's not letting you do something that's authentically you, then you need to take care of that. And a lot of people sometimes think that the feel of, like they have the fear of failure. Well, what if I do it and I don't succeed? So what? So what? So what if you don't succeed? You know what? You get up and you try again. And who cares? Like, who cares what people think? If you don't succeed, you know how many times I first started with my readings? I look back at my first readings and I'm like, oh my gosh. But you know what? People paid for them. They only paid like $40, but they paid for them, and they were semi-okay, but they weren't nearly what I do now. And so, but I didn't feel like that was a failure. I feel like that was just to get me where I am now, And you know how many times I would cancel readings at the beginning because I just would have so much anxiety that I couldn't handle the anxiety, that I would call and say, and they would move it to another day. And what was I doing? I was just prolonging my anxiety to another day, right? So it's just, I wish I could just tell you it's okay if you fail. In fact, lots of people fail all the time. If you look at any successful person, they will tell you, I failed here, 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 and here. If you want to get really technical, I failed at being an oracle card reader because honestly, I stopped doing oracle cards and went straight to mediumship. So, but is that really a failure? Not really. Not really. And so it's just, and what if you do leave a relationship and you end up going back 2 months later and at least you tried, right? At least you tried. And you can always make that choice again. You're never, ever stuck. Don't ever feel like you're stuck in one situation. Lots of people go to college, pay lots and lots of money, and figure out they don't like what they pay lots of money for, and they feel like they're stuck, and they're too afraid to do something else. Why? So what? money is energy, and your parents are going to be mad that you wasted that money. It wasn't a waste. You learned something, and you know what you learned? You learned that you don't like doing that. So you know what? You do it until you find something better, but start looking for something better. You can always change your mind. You always have a choice. Always, always. So challenge yourself. Challenge that fear. It's important to challenge your beliefs. You need to ask yourself all the time, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that I need to cut the ham in half to put it in the pan? Because if you've listened to me enough, you've heard me tell the pan story about how a newlywed couple gets married and the wife cuts the ham in half, and the husband's like, why do you do that? She's like, I don't know, my mom did it. So they went and asked the mom. She's like, I don't know, my mom did it. They went and asked the grandma, and the grandma's like, because it wouldn't fit in the pan. For all these generations and all these dinners, they're cutting the ham in half, and they didn't know why they were doing it. Figure out where your beliefs come from and why do you believe that. Ask questions. Ask questions. Don't just do things blindly because that's what you were told. Don't just cut the ham in half. Figure out why. It's important for you to challenge your beliefs, and because that could be, you could figure out your fear and anxiety. You can understand that they are not necessarily, who you are. You figure out that this isn't, you don't necessarily believe that. Lots of times too, if you feel a lot of fear coming on, do the tapping. You know how you tap your head or you tap your chest, any kind of any kind of meditation or relaxing techniques will help you to kind of face that fear too, if it's getting to be too much, right? If you need to talk to somebody about it, go to counseling. If you want to do this with your life, or talk to somebody who's done it. Talk to somebody who's come out of the spiritual closet. Talk to somebody who's left a tough relationship. I remember one time I was watching Will Smith give a speech, and he said, "There's always somebody else out there who's done it. Always. So find somebody else out there who's done it and ask them how they did it. And don't just try and avoid it. Don't just try and avoid it and put your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. Face it freaking head on. Okay? And even if you have to, make a list. Write down all the things you're afraid of. All the things. And I want you to think of the worst possible scenario. What is the worst thing that can happen? Okay, you get out of I bet you, some of them might hurt. Losing friends and family. That's going to hurt. But you know what? Are you going to die? No. And you know what? If you lose those friends and family, they didn't really love you anyways. They didn't love you for who you are anyways. They didn't love you authentically anyways. So just ask what the worst case scenario is going to be. What if I do fail? Okay, what if you do? Then you learn from your failures and you try again, or you find something different that you like. Or I think failure is going to school and paying all that money for something that you figure out you don't like, but staying in it for the rest of your life because of what other people are going to think. That to me is failure. But some other people won't think that. They'll think, oh, well, he went to school to be a dentist or a doctor, and he decided he didn't like it, and so he did this other dumb thing that made him maybe more money than the doctor would, but he's a failure. Who cares? No, that's not true. If you're doing something you absolutely hate for the rest of your life, that's a failure. If you don't try and do something you love, that's a failure. So, and always, 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 I say this all the time, give yourself some freaking grace. Holy crap. We are so hard on ourselves. Treat yourself like you would treat your friend. You would not tell your friend, oh my gosh, that's the stupidest idea. You might, if you're like that, and if you are, then that's kind of sad for your friend, I think. But, so, give yourself some grace, and know that nobody on this earth is perfect. Nobody. End of story. And like I say all the time, if you need help, seek it. Seek professional help, seek a mentor, seek somebody, ask. But if you do seek a friend or a mentor, ask them first if they're at capacity to handle your emotions, because sometimes, certain times of the month, they might not be, okay? And remember that you're not alone. Everybody in the freaking universe, world, has fear. Everybody has fear of something. Everybody. Every single person has had some fear about something. Every single person has failed. And if they haven't, I feel sad for them because they haven't tried. So every single person, you are not alone in this. Somebody out there has done it. So, and they lived through it most of the time. Just be patient with yourself and be consistent. Try, every day, try something new, add something different. If you're trying to open a business, research something new every day. Like investing, we're trying to learn about investing every day. That's the 100-hour rule. If you spend 100 hours a year on a hobby or a habit or learning something, you're going to be 95% more advanced in that specific thing than anybody else. You know how many? That's 20 minutes a day. If you spend 20 minutes a day learning guitar, at the end of the year, you're going to be 95% more advanced than than I don't know where you were before or in that area. So just try it. Just, what do you got to lose, right? And always, if it is life, if it is, if you do find yourself so afraid that you can't move, then do seek help and figure out where that's coming from. Seek out where that's coming from, because there's lots of therapists that will help you try and figure that out. Meditate. Ask Spirit to help you figure out where that's coming from, or ask Spirit to help you make the moves to help that. Because you know what? Life is too freaking short. Me doing readings every single day, the one thing I've realized is life is too freaking short to live it the way you don't want to. Don't live it the way you hate. Life is too freaking short to hate. And if you don't like your life right now, then do something small every day for 20 minutes that helps you to maybe make it a better place. Try and, just go for it. That's all I got to say. What are you waiting for? Just try. Just try. Actually, don't try. Do that Yoda thing. There is no try. There's only do. Just do it. And I promise you, you'll see some sort of betterness or growth or something, and you'll finally get that confidence somewhere. Something will hit. So go for it. That's this theme today. Go for it. Even if it's just tiny little baby steps, go for it. Because you know what? Did I ever imagine I would be where I am right now? No, I didn't. I thought I'd still just be, giving readings behind closed doors and hiding it from everybody, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's amazing. It's amazing because I'm reaching more people and I'm helping more people, and I can't imagine if I just wouldn't have tried. If I would have thought I'm going to fail, or and I did think that, but I still went for it anyways. If I would have let those fears, the fear of the religion thing, the fear of my family not loving me anymore, the fear of losing my family, the fear of losing my friends, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I am now in a way better place, way better than I was then. And I just want you to remember, I always think of this story, the story of Job in the Bible. This was a huge story that got me through my divorce, and it gets me through now too. And I promise it happens. When Job was tested, he lost everything. And, but when he came out of that, he got tenfold back. That means he got everything times 10 back. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, both those times in my life when I lost my marriage and my relationship, and when I had fear about stepping forward with my career, whatever I lost, I gained tenfold when I came out of it. So I just want you to know it's worth it. It's worth it at the end of the tunnel. Now, do I have different fears? Yeah, totally. Now my fear is more about growing more or being more out there, or, totally different fears. But the fear of losing my family is not one. But the bottom kind of story, the bottom line again, the base fear is what other people are going to think. So that fear's still there. So I got to figure out how to get rid of that, because that's the one that I face. All of the fears I've ever faced, bottom line, are what are other people going to think? And so I got to get to that point where I don't care, because this is my life. You only live once, and life is short. So you try and do the best you can. You try and live authentically you, and you figure out what the hell you want and how you're going to be happy, and you do that. Okay, I love you guys. Thanks for listening. And there's going to be more Spirit Circles coming out. I just haven't decided what I want. I've got to do things. I want to help other people because I know I'm getting so booked out that I need to be available for other people, but I have to figure out how I want to do it and how I like it. So just keep tuned, or stay tuned, because I promise something's coming. I group something, or I just got to figure it out. Okay? So love you guys. Remember, you have everything you need inside of you because you are the magic. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you would hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode, that would be awesome. If you could share it with your friends and family that you think might help, that would be great too.